One thing that has absolutely shocked me is that people unironically seem more excited and interested in Citlali than in the Pyro Archon. Both if you look at my videos, Citlali has outpaced Mauvuika. If you look at my shorts, the disparity is even greater. And the same is not just true for me, but other creators as well. It really seems like people are more excited for Citlali than Mauvuika. Of course, I do expect this to change when Mauvuika actually releases, but at least in the pre-release, people are more hyped about Citlali. So is this founded on anything? Will Citlali actually be the better pull than Mauvuika for your account? Well, that's what I aim to uncover in this video. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. We are giving away both a Citlali and a Mauvuika. Check out the Tactor articles in the pinned comment down below and you can enter for free. So I've basically made a tier list, a section for Citlali, a section for Mauvuika, a section for you want both, and a section for skip. And I'm gonna put characters in each category based on which unit I think. If you had to pick one, I guess I'll try not to put characters in both, but if you had to pick one, which character is going to enhance that character more, so you can get a sense of which will enhance your account more. As usual, I'm going to try focus on limited characters because people don't usually pull other limited characters to support their 4 stars. I mean, it could happen, but I don't really think anything's saving Venti at this point, character-wise, so we'll put him over here. For Klee, this is kind of interesting because Klee in Overloaded should get a pretty big buff, like a Chevron Klee team with Mauvuika. Mauvuika should be a pretty big buff to most Chevron teams, because right now you can't really use the scroll set there. Although there's a question of whether you should just on-field Mauvuika as opposed to using her as an off-field, and maybe use a Roran as a support. But you also have the option of melt Klee, but Klee doesn't really melt enough of her hits, so we're gonna go with Mauvuika being a better choice if you want a new team option for Klee. And I actually do think that it will be a relevant damage increase personally. Again, I would like to say that this is all very subject to change. I have looked at all the calcs that are available online right now, so I'm aware of what's going on out there, but we do have to wait until the character actually releases and we can test things to know for sure. It's impossible to know for sure which character is going to be better, but I think this is at least worth thinking about. So yeah, Klee, I think having Mauvuika as a sub DPS / burst DPS on your Chevron team should be an upgrade for at least one of Klee's archetypes. Could even be your best team in single target. Cinder City is really powerful and Mauvuika does some good off-field damage. Childe is actually still going to want to use Xiangling because Xiangling is actually doing a bit more damage than Childe on the international teams and vaporizing all of her hits. I don't think Mauvuika will do better, but I will try it. It'll be interesting to see. But the reason why Childe International works so well is because all the pieces fit together. You really didn't need a replacement for that particular team. Zhongli is a support. Albedo is not relevant. Citlali, for some godforsaken reason, it buffs melt, but not the cryo character in the melt reaction. So that doesn't help Ganyu. And Mauvuika doesn't apply enough pyro, it seems, to provide a melt for Ganyu. It could still be an upgrade. We'll test it, but for now I'm gonna maybe I'll make another column. Yeah. And we'll put these two here because we're really not sure. Okay, for Xiao, doesn't seem like, yeah, I mean, he is already pretty set. For Hu Tao, definitely Citlali. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it ends up being better than Shalonen teams for Hu Tao. I don't think so, but maybe because Citlali's still providing scroll. Maybe because it's still providing scroll and providing shred for both hydro and pyro, so maybe, but you can't use Farina. So this should be, Hu Tao should be really interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens with Hu Tao. Because Yanfei is a DPS, I'm thinking about putting her on here. Mauvuika for Overloaded or Citlali for like a melt vape type thing. I wonder, I don't know. I wonder if you can go like Farina, Citlali, Bennett, but I don't know if that's like enough hydro or what's gonna happen there. So yeah. For Eula, it's a skip for both. For these support characters, they're just not, I don't know, just doesn't make sense to rate them. For Ayaka, yikes. Once again, travesty for not buffing cryo. Yoimiya Citlali should definitely be a big improvement for her, which makes me kind of feel like it should be for Yanfei as well. But I also said I wasn't going to do 4 stars, so we'll just stick with these. For Raiden, she's actually going to be buffed by the Pyro Traveler the most. The Pyro Traveler should provide everything that Raiden needs as a Xiangling replacement for overloaded teams and be an upgrade. So with Raiden, you can just be happy and enjoy your free character. That should be an upgrade for her, maybe arguably her best team. So that's kind of exciting for Raiden. Unfortunately, it's not as good as if the Pyro Archon worked with her, because that would make her, you know, that would be a bigger buff. But hey, we take upgrades, we take upgrades. For Kokomi, can you do a DPS Kokomi with Citlali? I don't think it's better in any way than Kazuha. I don't think so. I don't think that that helps in any way. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me know down below if I'm missing something for Kokomi. I don't think that either of these characters help Kokomi at all. Ito is pretty happy with his double Hydro Shallonen team, or if you have C2 Shallonen, even then you can do better stuff. I don't think either of these characters really do anything for Ito to change that. Same with Shenhe. I have the tiniest bit of cope that Citlali, Chaska, Shenhe could be something, but it's not enough cope that I'm willing to put it anywhere else but here. But I will try it when we test Citlali. For Yae Miko, it's definitely Mavuika. Once again, the overloaded teams. And Yae Miko should be a really interesting case because Mavuika doesn't mind giving up some field time to Yae, and Yae really doesn't mind giving up some field time for Mavuika. I predicted dual carry DPSs all the way back in Fontaine as one of the Natlan things. And Mavuika is kind of like a dual carry DPS because she's very front loaded. So other characters that can be a little bit flexible and be part of a dual carry kind of setup are Yae Miko is one of those characters. So this should be a buff for Yae Miko overloaded teams because yeah. Ayato. Now Citlali actually should be an interesting option for Ayato teams because of course Citlali can buff the Pyro character but can also buff the Hydro. So can you maybe do both? Could you do Citlali, Mavuika, Ayato, and then like Bennett, and then you vape or melt Mavuika's burst, and then you attack with Ayato and snapshot his burst, and I don't know. I feel like I'm cooking like crazy here. That sounds really interesting. Does that sound just completely cope, or I don't know. That sounds kind of fun. It's probably bad just because Ayato numbers, but it actually sounds kind of okay. And then outside of using them together, which one would you prefer? Like Ayato's pretty happy with Kazuha. Like Kazuha, Farina, Bennett, I feel like is sort of his best team, where he feels the least cope in. And I don't know that you really want to change out any of them. I think you can. I don't know. Maybe I'll put him here because it just seems like too wild. But what do you guys, let me know. I really want to hear from you guys if you think that could work. Yelan's improving no matter what because you can use her in Mavuika teams or in Citlali teams and she'll be working in both, either with DPS Mavuika or with support, like supporting these guys, and she's buffed by Citlali and she can enable Mavuika, so I see Yelan winning either way. Tainari doesn't really gain anything here. Nilou doesn't gain anything here. Sino unfortunately doesn't gain anything here. Nahida doesn't gain anything. I mean, I think you could use Mavuika with Wanderer, but I'll hide them. I don't think we'll talk about DPS Dea. I think can Linny use Citlali? Mavuika for sure for that overloaded stuff. I mean, I don't see why not. Why you couldn't melt some Linny stuff. So I think either. I think I'm gonna put Ayato here. I think one way or another, there's gonna be new stuff for Ayato. For Novelette, it's mostly Citlali, although it's not like best in slot kind of stuff here, but it should be his comfiest C0 option. Aside from Zhongli, so it's his like a middle ground C0 option. But Mavuika can't enable vape, and I don't think Mavuika's hits are strong enough to count to like when she vapes or if she vapes her own hits to be worth it. Maybe, I mean, maybe. Especially her burst is doing a bunch, but you're not normal attacking, but you're using Shallonen. So she's basically just like a sub. She would basically just be a sub DPS on Novelette teams, and it's probably not worth it, but it sounds kind of interesting anyways. Risley seems like neither, as she's just leaving cryos out to dry. Farina, I mean, is a support, so I'm not going to rank her. Navia is buffed more by Mavuika for sure. Navia doesn't mind giving up field time as sort of like a dual DPS thing. This is what I was saying about my dual DPS theory. I'm actually pretty proud of it. Navia doesn't mind at all giving up a couple seconds for Mavuika to do like her burst and then something here and there. And Navia can do normal attacks to charge up Mavuika. But it can also give up some field time. So overall, and you're probably going to be using Shallonen. So you're doing Navia, Shallonen, Bennett, Mavuika, and that should be a pretty nice upgrade for Navia. I could put Chevre's teams just to represent Chevre's teams as a whole, but I'm just going to stick to each character. Gaming, he's okay in Chevre's teams, but he much prefers Vape and Melt. So I'm going to put him up here with Citlali. He is a 4-star, but I kind of consider him a 5-star because of his power. Arlecchino can definitely use Mauvuika for Chevre's teams and can also do the dual DPS thing. It's probably going to be really, really good, but it's looking like that Citlali might be some of Arlecchino's ceiling teams. Sethos, no. Cloran should get a pretty big buff from Mauvuika. Upgrading from Toma to Mauvuika and getting like all that additional damage and the scroll set buff should be pretty massive, to be honest with you. So I see Clorand getting a lot better. Of course, other characters are getting better this patch too, like Arlecchino, but I think Clorand should be taken very seriously after this patch, probably closer in line to someone like Navia, as like just behind the very best DPSs, maybe even more in conversation. I know everyone thinks I'm crazy, but that's what I think. Emily, I don't know. Emily, like Emily and Kinich are really going to be improved for Mauvuika. It's kind of tough because now we have to talk about, now that we're getting sort of to the end, we're putting Mualani in the Mauvuika section, we're putting Kinich in the Mauvuika section, and we're putting Chaska in the Citlali section. So it ended up pretty much exactly tied with characters that are buffed by either one, and a good mix of new and old characters in each side. Both sides are going to be getting some noticeable buffs. Keep in mind though that Mauvuika is also one of the better DPSs in the game. And keep in mind that Novelette is not a new ceiling Novelette team, but it is a ceiling Arlecchino team. So I don't necessarily think that one of these characters is better overall than the other for like just general accounts. And I don't think that either character buffs really more characters than the other. Maybe I'm missing some, but it seems like even if I'm missing some, it's still around equal. Both characters should be very strong, with Mauvuika also being a great on-field DPS. So if you don't have enough on-field DPSs, or say your DPSs are, you know, Novelette and Mualani, those are 2 DPSs, pulling Mauvuika is so much better of an idea than pulling Citlali, even though, oh yeah, Mualani can use both. Mualani can be buffed by both. But I think it's going to be a bit more important to go for Mauvuika. I don't know. Maybe it's either. But even though, like, I would still recommend going for Mauvuika because maybe there's Hydro immune enemies, and then you also have a Pyro DPS in addition to your Mualani and Novelette, right? You can use Mualani or Novelette on one side and use Mauvuika as a DPS on the other. So it kind of gives you an option to use one of your characters as a DPS instead of just using them as a support. Whereas Citlali is always going to be a support. Citlali would have a similar consideration in that if she had a much stronger shield, she would be a very comfortable pull, but having a very weak shield and mostly being focused on buffs means that you should mostly pull her for the buffs. So I think overall Mauvuika might slightly edge out Citlali as like a general recommendable pull, but I think Citlali makes a very strong case for herself, and depending on what you have on your account, could easily be the more attractive character for someone to pull. In addition, we have to wait and see how everything performs on paper. Maybe Mauvuika doesn't work with Mualani, or maybe Citlali doesn't really work with Novelette, or whatever it happens to be. I'm pretty confident in all of these characters. I might be a little bit less confident in what's going on with these, but I'm pretty confident in something like this. But we'll always have to wait for testing, and I will test the crap out of both these characters to help you decide who to go for. So let me know your thoughts. Enter the giveaway down below. Make sure to check out the Tactor articles and subscribe. And if you don't want to do any of those things, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.